Pimps, Power, and Pretty Ladies. This is Black's History Month, a 28-day celebration of Black exploitation films. I know y'all was waiting on me to get to this pimping. Well, here it is. 1973's The Mack stars Max Julian as John Goldie Mickens, a small-time criminal who goes to prison for 5 years after a botched job. Upon his release from prison, he gets some free game from a guy he used to work for, who tells him that pimping would be a more lucrative endeavor than what he was doing before he went in. It's nice that we at least get some dialogue of somebody important to Goldie explaining the ins and outs of the game, because other than that, it seems like Goldie just woke up one morning and was just magically already pimping. Once again, one musical montage later, and he's all of a sudden the biggest pimp in town, complete with a whole harem of harlots. A lot of dialogue and scenes from this movie has been parodied a lot. The Players Convention, for instance, has been parodied by everything from Jay-Z music videos to The Chappelle Show to Martin. And the way Goldie talks is pretty much the benchmark for how pimps sound whenever you hear them in a movie or a TV show.
Everything's gonna be alright. I'm gonna be everything to you. I'm gonna be your father, I'm gonna be your friend, I'm gonna be your lover.
The type of clothes he wears, his cane, the car he drives, Goldie in the movie The Mack as a whole did more to popularize the modern image of the pimp than any other presentation at the time, at least in my opinion. It's just a shame that the movie itself isn't quite as good as other blaxploitation movies at the time. The Mack is decent. Like I mentioned earlier, things just seem to happen with no rhyme or reason. It feels like it should have been put together a little more coherently, but funny enough, the pimping ended up getting in the way. Like in one scene, Goldie is talking with his brother who's a Pan-African revolutionary, and his brother is basically telling him that even though he loves him and glad he's making money, he's going to have to come for his livelihood at some point because he thinks it's bad for the community. There should have been way more emphasis on this relationship because that's quite the contrast in personalities and motivations. But in the very next scene, instead of following up on that, there's a lengthy, although admittedly kind of funny, scene in a planetarium where Goldie is hypnotizing his girls with the stars.
I will confide and expect Goldie. I will remain a lady at all times.
Forget 8-Ball and MJG, Goldie been space age pimping. Then right after that, there's another long scene that has nothing to do with nothing, showing Goldie and the rest of his squad playing baseball and having a cookout. I guess it's supposed to show that although Goldie is a pimp, he also does community outreach. I get that, but it's so long, and that time could have been spent on other things, like having more dialogue for Richard Pryor. Only The Mack can have one of the greatest comedians ever in it, and he not be funny at all. What happened? There's at least some conflict in the form of two crooked cops, the same ones who sent Goldie away 5 years ago, who want nothing but to see Goldie put under the jail. Then there's his old drug boss, who wants him to come back and work for him. He just won't drop it, and he low-key had me annoyed by the end. Perhaps his most famous foe is a rival pimp named Pretty Tony. Pretty Tony is like the Boba Fett of the Mack universe, because he's barely in the movie until the end, and has very little dialogue, but yet has this long legacy. Everybody knows who Pretty Tony is, or has at least heard of him, even if you haven't ever even seen The Mack. Admittedly, even with the limited screen time, he is pretty entertaining, no pun intended. The soundtrack is good, although not a classic, with standouts being the Mack theme song and I Choose You, which was sampled by UGK for the International Players Anthem. It was performed by Willie Hutch, and every time I hear that name, I can't help but think about the Last Dragon soundtrack, since he did the main theme. Willie Hutch, making multi-generational classics. At nearly 2 hours, it's a little overly long, but I recommend The Mack, mostly just to look back at one of the main influences on pimp culture, especially since Max Julian and Carol Speed, who played Lulu in the movie, just recently passed away in January, only 13 days apart. May they rest in peace.